was this is just rude behavior. And then my issue was the kids would go and do this when we had guests over.
Hey guys, it's Charles and Z, and I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to do a video last week. Life has been lifing.
Definitely lifing. Yes.
I had a business trip, and then this is the kids' last week of school, and
All you parents know it's just a big hodgepodge of, trying to keep things together.
so we wanted to do a quick video tonight and talk about something that's come up a lot. It's something that we discuss a
Yeah.
lot about our kids, and that's setting boundaries with your kids. Um, we have a 7-year old and a 6-year old. We're not talking about the baby. We're talking,
Hmm.
this is about the 7-year old and the
Yeah.
6-year old. And the 7-year old just turned 8 last week. And he's a boy, and the younger one, our 6-year old, who's turning 7 next month, girl. And it's very interesting with them because they're very conscious of who gets what and what they like, and the idea of fairness, and where if one gets something, then the other one has to get the exact same thing, or they have to get something of comparable value to what the other one got.
And not to interrupt, what's even more interesting, they're now at the age where they learn how to manipulate, right? Yes.
Yes.
So they're aware of, what's quote unquote to them fair, but also sometimes the things to say or things to do to ensure that they reap, that they benefit from things. And so I think that is the interesting part that we're trying to kind of navigate.
And by the way, while you're listening to us talk about our stuff that we don't necessarily know how to solve, if you have some comments about how you've handled this with
Yes.
your kids, please let us know, because right now we're thinking, does everybody go through this? Are our kids normal? Are our kids doing some behaviors that are problematic and that not everybody's kids are doing?
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. So I'll give you an example tonight. We put the kids to bed at the same time. Their bedrooms are in a hallway, and probably about 12-15 feet apart. And so when we put them to bed, we put them in bed, we tell them good night, we kind of tuck them in. There's always something that has to happen, like I need a glass of water, or I need something, I need my nightlight moved or something like that. But tonight I'm tucking my daughter into bed, and my son, our son, I hear him from his room go, "Daddy," like he needs something down there. And all of a sudden, our daughter, she launches into this story that has nothing to do with anything. It's about, oh, I was thinking about this thing today, and it reminded me of this. And I start to realize she's manipulating me to stay here because she knows that her brother wants something, and she's just trying to figure out how, she's just manipulating me to stay here. And so I cut her off. I'm like, no, this isn't a story that we listen to, that we talk about right now. It's bedtime. And then she launched in with one more thing, and she was like, "Daddy, could you?" And the thing was just totally random, and obviously something cooked up just to keep me there. And I'm like, "No, it's time for sleep. Good night." And I shut the door.
Let me ask you to pause for a second. Do you think her actions are isolated to her? Is that the concern? Or do you think that this is just a phase that most children would go through?
Me, I don't know. This is the first time I've had children this age. I haven't been around a lot of other children this age, so I don't really have a basis of comparison.
I feel like, and I'm no, I don't work with children like that, but I feel like both children, our 8-year-old and 6-year-old, are at an age where they're testing boundaries. For example, with our daughter, I really feel like she tries to push the
Yeah,
boundaries. And so if you give a little, she goes further and further. And I think sometimes I get in a tiff with you because I feel like you want to please by nature who you are, you want to please.
yeah.
And there's times where I'm just like, draw the line in the sand. And if they're a little upset with you, let them be upset in the moment. But drawing that boundary will correct behavior. And I'll give an example. For yesterday, we were going to go to a local,
Which is a weekend yesterday.
was a weekend, it was
Yeah,
Memorial Weekend, and there was a local community event, right? And we were exhausted because the day prior we went to a water park for our 8-year-old son's birthday. And going to that community event was going to really hinder us and prevent us from doing things like, our normal bath time routine, getting dinner out to the kiddos. So I told my husband I didn't think it was a good idea. And Charles, what'd you say to me?
who is your husband? I'm your
Who's my
husband.
husband? This is
Yes,
my
it's me.
husband. What did you say to me when I told you it wasn't a good idea?
Yeah, I said that it bothered me because I don't like to break promises.
And you promised.
I had promised our kids that we would try to go to the festival, the community event.
And in my mind, it's fine if you don't want to break a promise, but it shouldn't be to the detriment, right, of us or the children, right? Because, like I said, us going to this event, we would have got to bed so late and we would have started off the week, I feel like, tired,
Hmm.
you know, dinner would have been a mess. It just would have threw our day off. And we already had a weekend that I thought was fun filled. So my thought was just explain to the kiddos that, hey, unfortunately, we won't be able to make this event and not just try to cater because I promised.
But now, to be fair, our daughter had throughout the day asked, "When are we going to go to the festival? Are we going to go now?" So it was something that was obviously on top of her mind.
Absolutely. And it's okay. I commend you for always want to try to, keep your promise. But I also think that we got to teach our kiddos that, sometimes things don't go according to plan and you have to be a little bit flexible,
Mm.
right? And so those are sometimes the things where I think a boundary should be set. I'll give another example, right? And I think you've gotten better at this, but this is another example. And it's not attacking to you, it's just showing how I think we need to, you know, put that line in the sand. When I first met Charles, right, it was my pet peeve when we would be talking in the midst of a conversation and the kids would be asking him a question, just asking and he would pivot. He would quickly go into conversation or answering their question while we're in mid conversation. And it could be something as small as like looking at a character on the TV or, looking at this drawing. And I get being attentive to your kiddos, but when you're aware that what they're trying to get your attention for is most likely not an emergency, it reinforces, the behavior. Oh, I can just randomly interrupt an adult, right? And just, even if they're in the midst of conversation. And I think for children, or at least how I was brought up, I would never just like, hey, look at this, when adults were talking, unless it was something that was an emergency, you let them finish their conversation. Or, you start off with, excuse me, mommy, or excuse me, daddy. There's a way that you go about politely interrupting. But I thought when we first met, my thinking was, was this is just rude behavior. And then my issue was the kids would go and do this when we had guests over, right?
Mhm.
I remember a particular incident where your friend was over and he had to say to the kids, "Hey, your daddy's talking. Wait a minute."
Mhm.
Because they just kept on going. "Daddy, look at this. Daddy, look at that." And it kind of made me feel bad because I'm like, we should be the ones setting those boundaries, not the friend who's over. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? What are your thoughts in regards to that?
Well, I do agree that that was a problematic behavior. It's something that I've addressed with the kids, and I
You've
don't
gotten better
I don't do it. I don't do it anymore. Well, I don't do it much
as much.
much anymore.
Correction.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that a lot lets me or makes me indulge the kids a little bit, is just because, coming off of like the trauma with losing their biological mom and stuff. I'm very 5 years ago, I was super conscious of like, how are the kids doing? 5 years ago, my primary purpose was for them to be happy,
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm transitioning now to where like, it can't be just to make them happy, because
correct.
if you have a parent who is just trying to be subservient to a child and be their friend, then that's not going to give the child a good foundation. That's not going to give the child a good role model. Kids want leadership. They don't want somebody who's going to be their friend.
Mm.
Um, but uh, so I feel like I'm kind of in the transition from, where I was temporarily like, I just want the kids to be happy, to more like, okay, I'm good disciplining them, and I want to be fully engaged as the parent and not the friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we're we're in it's a learning phase, right? I think probably
Yeah.
that's true for all parents. I would think, and I think we're just going through a phase with our kiddos, right? So we're learning to navigate it as we go along. And I
Yeah.
do think that you're doing better with sorting your boundaries. And I think I'm working on trying to set the tone. I think I rely on you sometimes to set the tone or to, you know what I mean, to set the boundaries. So I'm getting into, I think, a zone of where I'm going to be comfortable with kind of putting those boundaries. I usually look to you to do that and then try to back you up. But I
Mm.
feel sometimes you're a little uncomfortable with doing that. So I think we're both learning to set our boundaries with the kiddos.
Let us know, in the comments what you guys think. Your experiences that you've
Yes.
had with your kids
Yes.
doing this kind of stuff, and what's worked out for you,
Yes.
because it's definitely something that's in the center of our lives right now. We just want to make our kids good little human beings.
Yes. Kind, respectful
Yeah.
human beings. But of course, comment, like, and subscribe below.
Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
Good night.